Well, good morning. I'm going to be doing something today that I really was not planning on doing. And in the spirit of sharing things that are good and not so good, I thought I would bring you guys along. Yesterday, and I knew this was going to happen, or I don't know that I knew this, but I suspected this potentially would happen at some point. And that is that I wouldn't be able to get into the barn. That happened yesterday afternoon, about an hour before the sun was going down. I'm going to quickly get the generator going here so I can get into the barn. And then I'll tell you what happened and what my plan for the day is. Might as well bring you guys along and have you share the misery with me. So that mess of cords is how I get into the barn until we get power. I don't know how many of you guys have one of these Honda generators, but almost inevitably starts on the first pull. Well, what happened yesterday is the cord that powers the opener inside the barn got caught up in the wheel of the track of the garage door and basically jammed it. And I always had an inkling that something might happen, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened yesterday, and I couldn't get into the barn. Now, the old preparedness adage, 1 is none, 2 is 1. I should have known better. So now I'm going to leave 2 pigtails out, so I've got a backup, and I'll tell you what that's about in a minute. But right behind me, you can see I had to remove, the only way to get into the barn was I had to remove a window. And of course, where are all of my tools? They're in the barn. So I had to improvise a ladder because the top of that is much taller than I am. And I had to get access up there to remove all the trim, cut the weather tape, remove the screws on the window, pull the window, get into the barn, fix the tangled up cord. And luckily yesterday, I don't know why, I had the presence of mind. I'm not always so blessed with that. I had the presence of mind to reinstall the window, at least to this point, and weather tape it. I woke up this morning and it was quite cold. There was a freezing fog blowing through the valley. Everything was covered in frost. And if I had to do all of that weather taping now with everything cold, it just it would not be very successful. So I got everything buttoned up last night, and today my task is to reassemble the trim and get the trim back on. The problem is I'm out of shims. I used the last package of shims when we installed the last window, so I'm going to run into town and get some shims. I'm going to treat myself to a cup of coffee. I have a hankering for a good cup of coffee, so we'll grab that and then come back and get the trim reinstalled. And knowing how things are timing wise, I bet that's about all I'll be able to get done today before it gets dark. And it will be dark and cold. Now, if you guys were here, I'd put you to work. Hazelnut.
Hazelnut. Okay.
And a granola bar.
And a granola bar. Perfect. Well, I'm glad. It's
Thank
fun
you.
to have you.
All right.
Have a good one.
You as well. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
So one little trick is how to estimate how much light you have left is each finger is about 15 minutes. I might be being a little over optimistic, but I think I've got just about 30 minutes left of sunlight. So let's see what happens. Well, one thing I've learned is always make a test piece or practice piece. We have a 1-inch reveal on all the sills to the rails. I'm actually out of 2.5-inch Craig screws, but somebody was watching out for me. I had purchased these a long time ago for another project, 2.5-inch square drive cabinet screws. And luckily, square drive is the same driver used by Craig screws, so good to go. I tested it, everything works good. I am running out of sunlight, so we've got to get on it pretty quick here. Okay, this is the last set of holes. Craig jig made quick work of that. You can see that turned out pretty well. And I think this is the only way I'm going to be able to do this and get everything set back quickly, nice and square, and lined up the way it was before. Who would have thought the scissor lift would come in handy here? Well, the problem is these are so long that there's too much torque put on the screws, and I heard a couple of cracks. I didn't want to break the frame, so I'm going to do the last two standing upright. I've got, over here I've got 2 pieces of trim just supporting this until I can get over there. And then over here I've got a Craig face clamp holding everything together, and it's lined up just where it needs to be. There we go, a little downward pressure with the boot. I was lifting this off the ground, I couldn't get enough torque. Almost done. Those lines are quite helpful. Perfect. All right, let's take a look and see what we got. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I used to cut these shims with a utility knife and snap them off. This is, to me, like a scalpel for construction. Woo! All right. Well, I didn't have a whole lot of time to do that. Hopefully, this is the last time that I have to break into our barn. It was not easy. Well, I've made a huge mess in the shop. I'm going to clean that up tomorrow. I'm going to go in the camp, cook some dinner, watch a movie on Netflix. We got that door done, and kind of a nice sunset there. I am out of light.